What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one will break down what's going on with NIO stock, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about the overall market, what you should be watching for, as tomorrow is going to be a very important day, as we have the big reaction that's going to be coming to Google and Microsoft's earnings, alongside some very big news involving the FOMC meeting and Jerome Powell speaking. So I'm going to break down how this may affect the whole market, what the news, data, and technicals are telling us about NIO, what you should be watching for moving forward. But before I do anything like that, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money to the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just 8 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so when it comes to NIO, we had a very interesting day. Another pop, then drop as the day went on. It still managed to close green, still trying to hold up. But I do want to warn everyone that we do have some big news coming out that could slow the market down possibly. And you always need to be prepared for this, in my opinion. Now, why is that? Let's start off with the earnings. So far with earnings, Microsoft actually is just waiting for guidance, but overall they managed to beat overall and they did quite well. Google is also up quite nicely, once again doing quite well as well. But Snap is down quite a bit from the last time I checked, so we're going to be watching all of these very, very carefully so far. Now for tomorrow, we have AT&T, Boeing, Coca-Cola, and a couple of others in the morning. Then after that, we have Meta and Chipotle. Meta is going to be the biggest one of the day for tomorrow. And in between the times the earnings come out before and after the market closes, intraday, tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, we have the interest rate hike decision coming out. And then at 2:30 p.m., we have the FOMC conference. Those are two separate things. This is going to be very impactful for the whole market, so make sure you're ready for this. This is going to cause either a big move to the upside or the downside, so you have to be ready. As far as NIO goes, we had some bullish news that came out, which is part of why NIO was just performing so well. NIO's insurance registrations were up at around 4,700 as of the 23rd of July. And that was just for the week, right? Just for the week ending for July 23rd. What's so bullish about this is the fact that NIO is continuing to just give us better and better numbers. And if they manage to maintain that for a very, very long period of time, they could do pretty good numbers, getting close and well above their previous records. And we could see NIO get very close to around 15,000 deliveries if they keep up numbers like this at the very least. It could even be much higher than that. 16, 18,000, something like that is very possible. And I think this is very bullish news for next week. So even if NIO does, drop a little bit with the market, even if that happens, I'm still completely fine with it because I think NIO has some potential to explode next week. If they announce some very, very strong deliveries, I'm going to be very excited approaching that. Now, for now in the market, is part of why I was talking about some potential downsides because we're starting to see some troubles amidst some of the regional banks. We actually saw PacWest being potentially bought up by the Bank of California. And they're doing this because of troubles that we're seeing for more of these regional banks. Now, is it the end of the world? Not necessarily. It's not super, super horrible or super serious. But we did see KRE and just a couple of other of those ETFs potentially good for downside. So it was just important to note. As far as NIO goes, people are now very excited about it. We're getting more buy ratings from like Zacks and many others out there. And we're continuing to see a good performance moving forward. We also are seeing some more expectations that NIO is going to continue to uptrend with higher projections than before. You can see right over here, Zacks has come out and they're talking about their projections for the full earnings. And they mentioned that in the current expectations, they are anticipating that not the strongest earnings moving forward for NIO, but they still have some very, very strong positions for the longer term. And they're still very, very bullish as they're trying to once again talk about NIO. They mentioned that the 12-month EPS is projected to once again grow. They believe it's going to be very, very good for them. They also mentioned that there's potential good amounts of improvements to come to their overall sales, and they're still quite excited about it. So looking at their valuation right over here, they're actually looking at it based off their PE ratio and factors like that. And they're saying that even though NIO may not have the best rating right now, they believe the bottom line is still more for like the longer term future, when they still believe that NIO has some good potential for that reason. So that's just their take on it in the very recent days. This is part of why NIO was holding up. We also got some very good numbers which helped NIO for the last 2 days with 100 plus million in volume, holding up quite nicely. The short volume overall is still not that bad. Short volume relative to price is currently only at about like 33% because there's a lot of buying pressure that's really making up that volume. The price price ratio is going up. That's good as NIO is gaining relative strength. JP Morgan announced that they're neutral on NIO. And NIO, when it comes to this data, it doesn't really matter as much because tomorrow is the FOMC meeting. But going into the longer term, I'm still very, very bullish as we're seeing the short interest declining. Now let's talk about the technicals. How are things looking for NIO? Unfortunately, from a technical standpoint, NIO is looking kind of weak because we have a bearish cross on the 1 hour PPO. And we started to decline. We got a very nice pop, then we declined a bit, which is completely normal. What worries me is there could be like a head and shoulders forming on it. Maybe we pump a little bit more to form a right shoulder, and then we start like dropping a bit because of the FOMC meeting. There's also this imbalance down here around this like 10.8 level. We could see NIO come down with the market temporarily. It's just a possibility because don't forget, we have Jerome Powell speaking. He might try to rug pull the markets. So just be very, very careful. So I'm anticipating that it is looking a little bit more bearish for the super short term, like for tomorrow, for the next few days. We might see some downside in the markets and for NIO, but don't you worry because when the new deliveries numbers come out, going into next week, I think it's going to look very good as we're getting some very good numbers so far in terms of registrations. I think NIO has potential to get a very nice bounce anyways. As far as SPY goes, we're going to be watching these levels very carefully to see if this could break out. If we get a big pump because of Jerome Powell tomorrow, alongside like all the earnings coming out, we could see SPY make its way up to at least 458. That's a possibility. If we get bad news tomorrow, we're going to be testing the 50 EMA at 454. If that fails us, we're going to make our way all the way down to much lower levels. So make sure you are prepared. We still have this unfilled gap down here in this like 452 area. We could come all the way down to 452 or lower if we get the rug pull from Powell. If we get a pump with Powell and all the catalysts coming out for Tesla, it's going to come all the way up to at least 275 to 278 around that area. If it fails to do so, it's going to come all the way down to below 260 to the 250s again, possibly to this imbalance down here around 255, which would be bearish for Tesla. Last but not least, for the triple Q, if we're bullish, we're going to be watching this thing break all the way up to 382. If we're bearish tomorrow, it's going to come all the way down to 378, if not as low as 375. Now, unfortunately, like I said before, I can't really predict this. It depends on what Jerome Powell says and what the Fed's policies entail. So we have to be ready for them. We have to be prepared. As far as NIO goes, this thing is once again looking a little weak, and I think the odds do favor from a technical standpoint a revisit of 11.5 or even lower than that. It may pop in the morning from a right shoulder, then potentially come all the way back down. And then we might see it in the 11s very, very soon, which is completely fine, 11.5 or so. But then, like I said before, even if it does drop, this could be another good buying opportunity because next week we might see a very explosive move by NIO because in 1 week alone, they did almost 5,000 deliveries. Just think about it. That's just based off their new registrations. So imagine for the entire month of July, they should be doing some pretty good numbers overall, well over 10,000. It should be, in my opinion, close to like 15,000 or so deliveries. The ES6 is killing it, and I'm expecting NIO to explode next week, in my opinion, once we get to August. And we're just a couple of days away, August 1st. I'm very excited and very optimistic. All right, so that's my view for NIO. Maybe for the short term, there could be some downside because of Jerome Powell, the FOMC meeting, some negative pressures from the markets. But for the medium term, going into like mid next week by August 1st, I expect and I'm anticipating a nice move by NIO. I think we're going to get some good numbers, and NIO is going to explode. That's my view in the most simple way I could put it. I want to keep this video short and simple. So thank you for listening. Have a good one, everyone. Get ready for the FOMC meeting, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. NIO to the moon alongside the whole market, and peace